Sanders, and welcome to TTTT number 4. Mike's been on his hammer clogs. He's been talking a lot about video games. It's got me pumped about video games, even though I don't have a whole lot of time to play them right now. I've been thinking a lot about the ones have played recently over the past year or so. Some of the ones, I've talked about in podcasts and stuff, but maybe I want to elaborate a little bit on. So I think I'm going to do a game review for this episode, episode number 4. This may be something I kind of do every once in a while, sort of, when I'm not in a position to do something else, or I don't have the facilities, or haven't really thought of something earth-shattering to do. So I'm going to do a game review, and today I'm going to review this game right here. This is Mirror's Edge. I got it for the 360. It's also on PS3. I don't know if it's on Wii or not. Maybe not. Oh, I know it's on PS3, it's on 360. It's a game made by EA, which I'm not a really big EA fan. I like some of the games they put out, but as a whole, as a studio, they do a lot of things that I'm not really on board with, like some of their advertising, and also the sports stuff. I'm not really a huge sports game fan or anything like that, so I don't really get in with all that. But anyway, this is not about that. This is about this Mirror's Edge. So this game was actually one of the first games I got from GameFly when I rented it, and I really liked it. And I guess rewind back to probably a year or more before that even, because this game's been out for a while. Let's see, I think it's probably 2007, something like that. 2008 it says, copyright. So it's been out for a while now, definitely. But even when I got it, it had been out for a while. When the first demo came out, or the demo came out for it, I downloaded it because everybody was like, "Oh, free running game, nice visual design, something different, first person free running game." So that appeals to me because anytime a studio comes out with something that's kind of like they're taking a risk bringing it out, it's a little different than the standard gray and brown and green first person gritty shooter game. Yeah, when they move away from that kind of stuff and they try to do interesting things, at least I definitely try to pay a lot of attention to what's going on there. And so this was one of those games where people kind of got a little hyped because of that, and I started following it. So I downloaded the demo when it came out, and I probably played the demo 20 to 30 times all the way through, and that is not an exaggeration. I mean, there were times where I would sit down, I would play it, and then as soon as I finished it, I started again, play it, and as soon as I finished it again, play it through like 3 or 4 times in a row. And I just really liked the gameplay. It was a lot of fun. So right when I got GameFly, I think if this wasn't the first, this was the second game that I got, because I really wanted to play the full version of the game. And I ended up buying it because I really liked it, and I knew I was going to beat it pretty soon, but I knew that I would want to play it through several times because of the different difficulty levels and stuff. So I ended up buying it, and that's how I got it. Anyway, so to the game itself, it's a first-person free-running game, like I said. The emphasis is not on combat. There is combat in the game, but it's not a really good system. But I think it's intentionally not an awesome system. I mean, you can do cool things, like you can... I guess it kind of makes sense of how the combat system works and why it works the way it does. It makes a little more sense to explain the story first. So you're... and forgive me, I may misspeak on some of this terminology because it's been a while since I played the game, but you're like a courier type of person. I guess they call them runners. I'm not exactly sure what they call them. But basically, there's a police state government, and so free communication has been hindered, and free speech is kind of hindered, and so to get messages back and forth, like networks and stuff are completely monitored by the government / the cops. So to get messages back and forth, they have these actual physical people who run across the rooftops of the city to deliver messages and deliver, like contraband, and contraband could be something that's totally not innocuous, like a laptop or something. never gets really detailed about what you're actually delivering, but it's kind of beside the point. The whole point is that you're trying to live this life fighting the system by being one of these runners and helping to deliver all this stuff around the city. That in and of itself tells you that you want to completely avoid any entanglements with police at all whatsoever. So any kind of combat situation is an entanglement with the cops, and so you can try to run away from it. There's some instances where you just can't run from it, especially towards the end. There's just so many cops and so much stuff going on in such a tight space that you can't run away from it, and you have to deal with it. And the way that you deal with it, you can actually sneak up behind people and hit them and knock them down, take their weapons, and you can have weapons and shoot in the game just like any first-person shooter, but it's not very accurate or good, and it's really, the entire system's set up to discourage you to do that. I think it has to be intentional almost, because it's not really that hard to make a first-person shooter these days. Well, at least I'm assuming it's not, because there's so many of them with mechanics better than are in this game. So, and I think it kind of is a little bit of and whenever I see something like that, the way that I interpret it is that, this character is not extremely well trained in firearms, although there is some story to make you think that you are at least somewhat trained, but you're not well trained, and obviously that's not your forte. You only do it if you have to do it, basically. So about the game itself, it's really cool because it's kind of like the levels are sort of like mazes. I mean, they're not exactly mazes with like a bunch of dead ends. It's sort of linear, and that's sort of a knock against it. But the way that you can go through the levels is pretty cool. I mean, you can decide, do I want to jump off that building so that I can turn and jump to this pole over here, or do I want to just try to jump on all these things to get up to the top instead of trying to get on the pole and climb up? You have different options to what you can do. And then there's the thing that's really good about it is there's a really good sense of when you start to run, you actually feel the speed. You feel it feels like you're picking up speed when you start running, and the fewer mistakes you make with the moves that you do, you feel that momentum building and sustaining, versus like if you make a misstep, you lose that momentum and you totally feel the loss of momentum. And it's really strange how it works. They did a really good job with combining the vibration of the controller, in addition to some really good work with the view and how it looks like things start speeding by around the edges of your vision, and so you kind of lose focus on that, but you're kind of focusing in on where you're running toward. So that's really cool. And like I said, the game has the experience of the game is awesome. I really like it when you're running and you're on your game and you're not messing up, you're not running into stuff. It just feels very exhilarating. I mean, it feels, for me, for this kind of medium, it probably feels as close to actually doing something like that as you could. I mean, I can't imagine what would make it feel more like that. And I really like the game. I mean, I've blazed through the game, and I've been meaning ever since to go back and play through it on a harder difficulty level, but it is really a really good game. I enjoyed it a lot, and so that being all the good stuff, maybe I'll kind of try to give an even balanced view and give you some of the not so good stuff. There's only a handful of things at most that I can really say bad about it. The biggest glaring fault that most people, if you've read any reviews about it or heard anybody else talk about it, what they'll tell you, and there is absolute truth to it, it's why everybody says it. This is not a game you want to play if you don't like trial and error and you don't like dying a lot, because you will die a lot. I mean, I cannot imagine anybody that would be able to play through this game, especially toward the end, without dying all kinds of times. And I could see where it would get extremely frustrating. I could see where a lot of people would get really frustrated with it. For me, the rest of the experience was so intense. I mean, it was so awesome. I really liked it so much that it was really easy for me to look over that. Except there's one level, I think it's I'm not sure if it's the next to last level, but it's really close to the end. and I don't want to say what's going on or anything, but you're in a very narrow space with a whole lot of cops, and it's really hard. It's one of those things where you have to be so perfect with what you do for such a sustained period of time. There's no like checkpoint in between it that you're, I mean, you always get through. I mean, you start getting through a little bit more, and then you die and you have to go back, and then you get through a little bit more and you die and you go back, and then it's just so long. It's really, really tough, and I almost gave up at that point. But it was one of those things where, while that was frustrating, it was also really cool to see some of the things that pressured me to do as a reaction to try to make it through that level. The things that I could do that initially were not even obvious to me, and this level that I'm talking about really typifies the whole, you know, you don't have to do it all the same way, because the way that I ended up actually beating the level was probably a way that the developers never intended you to be able to do it, because it wasn't a cheat, but it was something that was absolutely not obvious, and it probably took me about 30 or 40 tries to figure it out that you could actually do it, and then several more tries to actually pull it off. But it was very rewarding to do that, because it was like, oh, that's so awesome. If you had like seen a movie with somebody doing that, you would have flipped out because of how cool it would have looked. And so it's that sort of game where, you know, it can be frustrating, but to some people that can bring a greater challenge that has a greater sense of accomplishment when you meet that challenge. So that's one of the big knocks, is that, you know, it forces you to try and probably die a lot to figure stuff out. But and sometimes it takes a little while to load after you die and come back. But most of the time it was pretty fast, and it wasn't even that big of a deal. So that's probably the biggest knock that I have against it. The second knock is that the story is very weak. They start building up a kind of a cool story, and it could have been really, if they had like a really awesome writer. I don't want to talk bad about people, because I know people work really hard on this kind of stuff, but I felt that if they had gotten a little bit better of writing on it, and kind of, and it may not have been the writing's fault, and actually, let me take that back a little bit, because the scenes that were presented were pretty good. I think it was just a matter of the information that they did reveal to you, and when they revealed it to you, and how often they revealed it to you, just wasn't satisfactory to me. And the story itself could have been a little more complex, I think. There were some good motivations for the characters, and so that's always a pet peeve of mine, is when a game doesn't give, like, especially the main character, sufficient motivation to do stuff. But I think in this game there's, I mean, it's very blatant why she's doing what she's doing, and it gets, I mean, even down to a personal level for her. Her motivation for doing all the things she does in the game are pretty transparent, and that's good, because when you have unclear motivations, I mean, there comes a sense of, you know, why do I even care that she's doing this stuff? So that was good. Just the story in general, it was not very deep, and it wasn't, it resolves at the end, but it wasn't very satisfying at all. I mean, it was just not. Yeah, so the story was kind of weak. I didn't like that. And I was thinking there was something else I was going to say. Those were the two really big things to me, the big knocks against this game. The music is really good. I mean, it's weird, because it's not like the kind of music that I would normally. Well, I take that back. I would probably be into it independent of it, but it really helped to set the mood. I'm going back to more good stuff about this game, because I really like this game, I'm sorry. But the music was really good, and the visuals are really good, and that's probably something you've heard a lot, that the stark contrast of the red and white, and is very visually striking and pleasing, and I really like that. But the music, there's very little music in this game, but when it does come in, it accentuates very well, and it's good. It's well done music. It's not, you know, overdone and very pompous and just crazy, or, you know, like, it's not rock, or really driving rock or anything like that. It's just kind of laid back, and it kind of gives you a sense, especially towards the end. When you hear the main theme song of the game, like at the end when the story's resolved, and you kind of understand why the type of music is the type of music it is. I don't know, maybe I read stuff so deeply in it, maybe other people didn't catch that, but to me, and like I said, this goes back to my art is subjective, it's not objective. What I got out of this game is art, with the music, is how the story, it accentuates the themes of the story, the main theme at the end, and how it resolves in a very good way. It's still a little emotional, I like games that can touch you emotionally, and I think this is one that could have been could have touched me emotionally, it could have touched me a lot deeper, so could have been a lot more emotionally involving, and I mean, it did get that way towards the end, and it tried to be, but it could have, it had so much potential that I think it left untapped, and that's kind of another, and that kind of parallels the weakness of the story. I think that is the key weakness in my mind, is that it could have been more emotionally engaging than it was, and it tried, but I just think, I think this game may have been rushed. I don't know. I say that and watch it have been in development for like 7 years or something, but I feel that it was rushed a little bit. I think that if they'd had 6 months, probably about a year more on it to really develop the story, really polish some of the things, this would have been like a 9.5 type of game. But yeah, Mirror's Edge. I'll give a subjective score, if this even means anything, but for me, if I had to give it an out of 10 score, I would say it's probably an 8.5. And that sounds low for as good as I talk about this game, but it's just the weaknesses in it are key weaknesses for me, like the story. I'm a very story-driven kind of person, as you probably know from all the talking I've done on this video and on the podcast. The story really can make or break a game for me, and I think if they had a stronger story with a deeper emotional tie, like I said, this would have been a 9.5 easily. And at that point, the only reason it wouldn't have been a 10 would be some of the polish. It could have been a little more well polished, and the fact of having to try and die to get through the game. But again, that's not that doesn't even really faze me so much so, as I know that it phases a lot of people, and I know that's a reason why a game shouldn't be awesome, unless the trying is, or like the death retry cycle is so quick and fastly integrated into the experience that you barely even notice it. They try to do that with this, but I think it could have been a little bit better. So yeah, Mirror's Edge, 8.5 in my book, or 85 out of 100%. I don't know if that, like I said, even if that means anything. I would highly suggest playing this game. You could probably get it on eBay now for like 10 bucks, 15 bucks. It is totally worth 10 or 15 dollars. I think I paid like 20 or something like that when I got it, and this was like, I don't know, a year ago or more. Probably about a year ago now. So totally worth buying. If you have GameFly, get it. You can beat it really, really quickly. I think I beat it in less than a week for sure, and I wasn't playing games like all the time at that point. So worth a playthrough, however you have to do it. Don't steal it, but definitely borrow it from somebody if you have a friend who has it. Buy it used for cheap. Get it at GameFly, however you have to get it. I've heard that the PS3 version is a little buggy. I mean, isn't that the story of most PS3 versions? It's a little buggy, but I didn't notice anything wrong with this, other than the slight flaws with the game itself. So that is my review of Mirror's Edge. These review things I'll probably do every once in a while to sort of break up the other things that I do, kind of give some variety. I don't know if I'll do it regularly. I'll do it regularly, but I don't know if I would say something like once a month or anything like that. I don't know. I may. But at this point, I have a backlog of games that I would like to review, because I have played a lot of really good games that need to be talked about. And I know I talk a lot, but some games that I really haven't talked a whole lot about, and some that I have, that I really want to get out there and kind of give my opinion on them and kind of make it permanent for the world to see. As always, you can email me at jordan@orderoftýr.com. I am open to any suggestions. If you want me to play a game and review it, I would I would dig that for sure. Let me know, and I'll get a hold of it how I can. I think I have all the major consoles. Yeah, I have Wii, 360, PS3, I have PS2. Obviously that means I can play PS1 games. I can get my hands on a Super Nintendo and Nintendo N64, anything, like PC. Obviously I have PC, so if there's any games you want me to take a look at and review, I will be glad to do it. So until next week, this is Jordan B. Sanders signing off from the 4th episode of TTTT, Trygil's Tips, Tricks, and Talk. See you next time.